In a quaint, quiet corner of their life, Susan and Janet found themselves enveloped in a moment of sheer disbelief and concern. Janet, ever the voice of reason, expressed her shock at Susan's plans to embark on a trip to Vegas, especially without discussing it with Tim, her husband. The idea of Susan being the only married woman among singles raised alarms for Janet, hinting at potential complications and the looming shadow of infidelity that such a setup could precipitate, especially with individuals like Carol and Peggy in the mix, whose reputations suggested they were more than willing to embrace the temptations Vegas had to offer. Susan, on the defensive and visibly frustrated, asserted her need for a break from the monotony that had crept into her life, hinting at a deeper malaise in her marriage to Tim. Her life, she felt, was devoid of excitement, something she desperately sought. Yet, behind her defiant stance, lay an underlying frustration not just with her circumstances but with Tim's demeanor, his conflict-averse nature, and his inability or unwillingness to stand up for himself, traits that had begun to grate on her. Janet, witnessing her friend's distress, suggested communication, a plea for Susan to bridge the growing chasm between her and Tim. However, Susan's recount of her attempts painted a picture of a man steadfast in his beliefs, particularly his aversion to violence, further fueling her need for escapism, a need she believed a trip to Vegas could satiate, albeit temporarily. As plans for the trip solidified, the narrative took a poignant turn, delving into Tim's backstory, revealing a man of depth, shaped by his experiences in the Navy and his subsequent journey through academia and into a stable family life. This backdrop laid the foundation for understanding the complexities of their relationship, highlighting the stark contrast between Susan's craving for excitement and Tim's contentment with stability, setting the stage for the inevitable confrontation that awaited them upon Susan's return from Vegas, a confrontation that promised to unravel the very fabric of their marriage. The weeks following Susan's trip to Vegas and the subsequent confrontation between her and Tim were marked by an eerie silence in what used to be their shared home. The house, once filled with the laughter of a family, now echoed with the hollowness of estrangement. Susan found herself wandering through the rooms, each corner a reminder of a life she once cherished but had irrevocably changed through her actions. The weight of her decisions hung heavily on her, suffocating her with regret. As the reality of her crumbling marriage settled in, Susan realized she had lost more than just her partner. She had lost a part of herself. The vibrant, confident woman who once navigated her life with enthusiasm seemed a distant memory. In its place was someone who struggled to find joy in the mundane, whose reflections were clouded by what-ifs and if-onlys. Meanwhile, Tim threw himself into his work, using it as both a distraction and a means of rebuilding his life. His days were filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and the occasional after-work engagement to network and drive his business forward. Yet no matter how busy he kept, the evenings brought a silence he couldn't escape, a reminder of the solitude that awaited him at home. In an effort to shake off the growing sense of loneliness, Tim decided to join a local running club. He had always found solace in the rhythmic pounding of his feet against the pavement, the way it cleared his mind and helped him to refocus. Running with a group brought a semblance of companionship, a shared experience that momentarily eased the sting of his isolation. Susan, on the other hand, sought solace in her friendships, particularly with Janet, who remained a steadfast presence in her life. Their conversations often circled back to Tim and the marriage that was now in tatters. Janet listened patiently, offering advice when she could, but more importantly, providing Susan with a shoulder to lean on. As the weeks turned into months, the initial shock of their separation gave way to a deep-seated sadness. Susan found herself missing the small moments they shared, the morning routines, the casual exchanges over dinner, the quiet nights in. She longed to reach out, to bridge the chasm that had formed between them, but pride and fear held her back. Tim, for his part, experienced a similar nostalgia. Despite the anger and betrayal that had driven a wedge between them, he couldn't deny the years of love and partnership they had shared. Memories would catch him off guard. A song on the radio, a familiar scent, a shared joke, and he would feel a pang of longing for what used to be. But life had to move on, and both Susan and Tim found themselves at a crossroads. For Susan, it was a matter of confronting the mistakes she had made and figuring out a path forward, one that might not include Tim, but would hopefully lead her to a place of self-forgiveness and peace. For Tim, it was about accepting the end of one chapter and having the courage to start anew, even if the future looked uncertain and intimidating. As they navigated their separate lives, the question remained: could there be a second act for Susan and Tim, or had their story reached its inevitable conclusion? Only time would tell, but the journey, with all its pain and discovery, promised to shape them in ways they never expected. In the heart of autumn, the world around them transformed, mirroring the changes in their own lives. The leaves shifted from green to brilliant shades of orange, red, and yellow, before finally surrendering to the ground. This cycle of life, of death and rebirth, wasn't lost on Susan and Tim as they each sought ways to navigate their new realities. Susan decided to take a leap of faith into a venture she had long considered but never pursued due to the comforts and constraints of married life. She began attending workshops and seminars on digital marketing, a field she felt passionate about but had previously set aside. With each session, she felt a spark of her old self reigniting, her confidence growing alongside her knowledge. She started freelancing, taking on small projects that slowly but surely built her reputation and portfolio. The work was challenging, requiring her to stretch her abilities and learn on the fly, but it was also exhilarating. For the first time in a long time, Susan felt like she was on a path that was truly her own, defined by her interests and efforts rather than her role as a wife or mother. Meanwhile, Tim found solace in the structure and demands of his growing business. He poured his energy into his work, finding satisfaction in the company's successes and the recognition of his peers. However, he also began to explore other aspects of life that he had previously neglected. He volunteered at a local community center, teaching financial literacy classes in the evenings. This new role brought him into contact with a diverse group of people, each with their own stories of struggle and resilience. Through these interactions, Tim discovered a sense of purpose that extended beyond the confines of his office. He was making a difference, however small, in the lives of others. As the months passed, both Susan and Tim experienced moments of loneliness and regret, times when the weight of their separation felt unbearable. There were nights when the silence was too much for Susan, and she found herself reaching for her phone, only to pull back at the last moment. And there were evenings when Tim would drive past their old home, the light in the windows a painful reminder of what he had lost. But with each passing day, they also found moments of joy and fulfillment. Susan's freelance work blossomed into a thriving business, giving her a sense of accomplishment and independence she had never known. Tim's classes at the community center led to new friendships and eventually a sense of community he hadn't realized he was missing. Winter turned to spring, and the world around them bloomed once more. It was during this time of renewal that Susan and Tim crossed paths again. A mutual friend's wedding served as the backdrop for their unexpected reunion. They found themselves seated at the same table, the awkwardness palpable amidst the celebration. The conversation started tentatively, each tiptoeing around the subjects that lay like landmines between them. But as the evening progressed, they found themselves laughing at shared memories, acknowledging the pain of the past without letting it dominate the conversation. It was clear to both that they had changed, shaped by their experiences and the time apart. The connection that had once been unbreakable was frayed, yet there remained a thread of something indefinable, a sense of understanding and shared history that couldn't be entirely erased. As the wedding guests danced and the night wore on, Susan and Tim found themselves engrossed in conversation, not as husband and wife, but as two individuals who had once loved each other deeply, and in some ways, always would. The evening ended with no promises or plans for the future, but with an acknowledgement of the past and a tentative hope for what might come. They parted ways with a sense of closure, if not reconciliation, understanding that while their paths might diverge, they would always be part of each other's stories. In the weeks and months that followed, Susan and Tim continued to build their separate lives, enriched by the knowledge that growth often comes from the most unexpected places. They had each found a way to move forward, carrying with them the lessons of love, loss, and the possibility of new beginnings. As summer unfurled its warmth and brightness over the city, both Susan and Tim found themselves in a period of reflective growth. Their encounter at the wedding had served as a pivotal moment, a bridge between their shared past and their individual futures. It had offered them both a sense of peace, a closure that allowed them to look forward with less weight upon their shoulders. Susan's digital marketing venture had evolved from freelancing to establishing her own small agency. She had hired a couple of employees, bright young minds eager to make their mark in the digital world. The responsibility of leadership was new to Susan, but she embraced it with a mix of determination and humility. She found joy in mentoring her team, in seeing projects come to life under their collective efforts. Her work became a source of pride, not just for its success, but for the impact it had on her clients' businesses, and by extension, on their lives. Tim's commitment to the community center deepened. The financial literacy classes he had started as a diversion from his personal turmoil had grown into a program recognized by the local government. He was now coordinating with other volunteers to expand the curriculum to include entrepreneurship and job readiness skills. The satisfaction he derived from this work was different from his corporate achievements. It was quieter, more profound, a sense of contributing to the greater good that filled him with a humble pride. But life, in its infinite complexity, was not content to let them settle into these new roles without further challenges and opportunities for growth. For Susan, the challenge came in the form of an unexpected partnership offer. A larger, well-established marketing firm had taken notice of her agency's work and proposed a merger. It was an opportunity to significantly expand her impact and resources, but it also threatened the close-knit culture she had built with her team. The decision weighed heavily on her, a test of her values and vision for the future. For Tim, the opportunity came from within his own company. A project he had been nurturing for years finally caught the interest of a major investor. This project had the potential to revolutionize a segment of the financial industry, aligning perfectly with Tim's passion for making financial services more accessible to the underserved. However, bringing this project to fruition would require a level of commitment and risk that he hadn't considered since starting his business. It was a chance to make a lasting impact, but it also posed a significant challenge to the balance he had found in his life. As they navigated these new waters, Susan and Tim leaned into the lessons they had learned through their separation and personal journeys. They approached their decisions with a mix of careful thought and intuitive understanding, knowing that the right path was not always the easiest or most obvious one. Susan decided to pursue the partnership, but on her terms. She negotiated to ensure that her team's culture and values would remain intact, creating a new division within the larger firm that allowed them autonomy while benefiting from the resources and reach of the merger. It was a bold move, one that came with its share of growing pains, but it also brought new opportunities for growth and impact. Tim chose to dive into his project with the investor's backing, dedicating himself to bringing his vision to life. The work was demanding, consuming much of his time and energy, but it was also deeply rewarding. He found himself invigorated by the challenge, driven by the potential to make a difference in the lives of so many. Their professional journeys were a testament to their growth and resilience, to the ability to rise from the ashes of their past and build something new. But it was not just their careers that flourished in the aftermath of their separation. Both Susan and Tim found new depths in their personal lives, forging connections with friends and family that were richer and more meaningful than before. They learned to appreciate the simple joys of life, the quiet moments of contentment that are often overlooked in the pursuit of success. And while they continued to move in separate orbits, there was an unspoken understanding between them. They had shared a love that, though it had not endured in the way they once hoped, had shaped them in indelible ways. They were bound by a history that, in the end, had led them to find their own paths to happiness and fulfillment. As the seasons changed, marking the passage of another year, Susan and Tim found themselves reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. They were not the same people who had walked down the aisle all those years ago, nor were they the same people who had faced each other across the divide of their separation. They had grown, evolved, and found strength in their independence. And in doing so, they had discovered that sometimes love means letting go, not to lose each other, but to find themselves. The cycle of the seasons continued its eternal rotation, and with the arrival of another autumn, both Susan and Tim found themselves at significant junctures in their lives. Their professional achievements and personal developments had solidified their paths, making it clear that growth often springs from the soil of adversity. Yet life, in its boundless unpredictability, still had lessons for them to learn and experiences for them to navigate. Susan's agency, now a part of a larger firm, had not only retained its unique culture, but it also influenced the broader organization. Her leadership style, marked by empathy, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to her team's well-being, became a model for other departments. The merger, once a source of anxiety, had transformed into a beacon of potential. Susan realized that true leadership wasn't about maintaining control, but about inspiring growth and fostering an environment where everyone could thrive. This revelation wasn't limited to her professional life. It seeped into her personal relationships, allowing her to form deeper, more meaningful connections with those around her. Meanwhile, Tim's project had launched to great acclaim, providing underserved communities with access to financial services previously beyond their reach. The success of the project was a testament to Tim's vision and perseverance, but it also underscored a fundamental truth he had come to understand. Success is richer when shared. This understanding led Tim to establish a foundation aimed at promoting financial literacy and entrepreneurship within those very communities his project served. His work had become more than a career. It was a calling, one that filled him with a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. But it wasn't just their professional lives that flourished. Both Susan and Tim had ventured back into the world of dating, albeit cautiously. Susan met someone at a conference, a fellow entrepreneur who shared her passion for creativity and her commitment to making a difference. They connected over shared experiences and a mutual understanding of the joys and challenges of building something meaningful. For Susan, this new relationship was a chance to explore companionship with the wisdom gained from her past. Tim, on the other hand, found himself drawn to a volunteer he worked with at the community center. She was a retired teacher who brought a wealth of experience and a gentle spirit to the financial literacy classes they taught together. Their relationship evolved from friendship to something deeper, built on mutual respect, shared values, and the simple pleasure of each other's company. As the leaves began to fall, signaling the approach of winter, Susan and Tim faced their futures with a newfound clarity. They understood that life was a tapestry of interconnected threads, joy and sorrow, triumph and defeat, solitude and companionship. Each experience, each person who crossed their path, had contributed a thread to that tapestry, enriching its pattern and texture. The journey had not been easy. There were moments of doubt, of loneliness, of wondering whether the choices they had made were the right ones. But as they looked back, they saw not a landscape marred by regret, but a horizon broadened by possibility. In the end, Susan and Tim discovered that the most significant growth occurs in the spaces between our plans, in the unforeseen twists and turns of life. They learned to embrace these moments, to find strength in their resilience, and to remain open to the endless potential of the unknown. Their story, a testament to the transformative power of change, ended not with a return to the past, but with a hopeful gaze toward the future. It was a future they would navigate separately, yet forever connected by a shared history and the indelible marks they had left on each other's lives. As the first snowflakes of winter began to fall, blanketing the world in silence and serenity, Susan and Tim stepped forward into their next chapters. They did so with courage, with open hearts, and with the quiet confidence of those who have traversed the depths of heartache and emerged into the light of new beginnings. With the arrival of winter's blanket of snow, both Susan and Tim found themselves in periods of quiet reflection, their lives having taken on new rhythms and forms. The challenges they had faced seemed less like obstacles and more like stepping stones to deeper understanding and fulfillment. The season's stillness offered them a chance to pause and consider the journey they had undertaken, individually and together, and the paths they now walked. Susan, in her newfound role within the larger marketing firm, discovered that her influence extended beyond her original vision. The partnership that had once filled her with trepidation had become a source of strength and innovation, blending her entrepreneurial spirit with the resources and reach of a more established company. The integration had not only expanded her professional capabilities, but had also broadened her perspective on leadership and collaboration. She had learned the power of combining strengths, of building bridges between different worlds for a common goal. This lesson transcended the walls of her office, touching her personal life in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her relationship with her partner, rooted in mutual respect and shared passions, flourished, becoming a cornerstone of her new life. Tim's project, now a beacon of hope for many, had grown beyond his initial expectations. The foundation he established became a conduit for change, empowering communities with the tools and knowledge to transform their financial futures. This work, while fulfilling, also served as a mirror, reflecting back to Tim the values that truly mattered to him. He found joy not in accolades or achievements, but in the genuine connections he made, in the lives he touched. The volunteer, who had become a significant part of his life, reminded him daily of the beauty and simplicity, in finding happiness in the shared moments, in laughter and in quiet companionship. Together they explored what it meant to build a life on the foundation of understanding, kindness, and shared purpose. As the winter gave way to the promise of spring, both Susan and Tim stood on the cusp of new beginnings. The season, with its theme of renewal and growth, mirrored their own lives. They had weathered the storms, navigated the uncertainties, and now found themselves emerging with a renewed sense of self and direction. Susan's agency, under her guidance within the larger firm, tackled new, ambitious projects that bridged technology and creativity in ways that had once seemed out of reach. Her leadership style, infused with empathy and innovation, inspired her team and her peers, setting a new standard for what success could look like in the competitive world of digital marketing. Tim's foundation expanded its reach, launching new initiatives that addressed not only financial literacy, but also entrepreneurship and community development. His relationship with the retired teacher deepened, grounded in shared values and a mutual desire to make a meaningful impact. Together, they explored the possibilities of what their combined efforts could achieve, both within the community center and beyond. As the days grew longer and the world around them blossomed with new life, Susan and Tim reflected on the profound journey they had embarked upon. They had traversed paths marked by pain and loss, but also by growth and discovery. They had learned that strength comes from vulnerability, that leadership is about lifting others, and that love, in its many forms, is what connects and propels us forward. Their story, a tapestry woven from the threads of their experiences, stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was a reminder that while life's journey might take us on unexpected detours, it is in these moments of uncertainty that we find our true direction, our most authentic selves. And so, as the first buds of spring appeared, heralding the cycle of renewal, Susan and Tim embraced their futures with open hearts. They understood that the journey was far from over. It was merely entering a new phase, one filled with possibilities yet to be discovered. They moved forward, not as they once had, together, but as individuals whose lives had been irrevocably intertwined, each a vital chapter in the other's story, forever a part of the tapestry that was their shared history. As spring unfolded its vibrant palette across the landscapes of their lives, Susan and Tim each found themselves stepping into roles that felt not just new, but deeply right. This season of renewal brought with it a sense of clarity and purpose, as if the trials of the past had been the necessary rain that nourished their present growth. Susan, now a guiding force within her merged agency, had begun to use her platform to advocate for more than just innovative marketing solutions. She initiated a program aimed at supporting startups focused on social impact, merging her entrepreneurial skills with her desire to contribute positively to the world. This initiative quickly became a passion project, one that allowed her to mentor young entrepreneurs, sharing the lessons she had learned about resilience, innovation, and the importance of staying true to one's values. Her relationship, built on a foundation of mutual support and shared dreams, continued to flourish, becoming a source of strength and joy in her life. Tim, meanwhile, had seen his foundation's initiatives begin to bear fruit, with communities once marginalized gaining both the skills and confidence to engage with their financial futures more effectively. The success of these programs led to new partnerships with local and national organizations, amplifying the impact of his work. His personal life, too, was a reflection of this burgeoning growth. The relationship with the retired teacher had evolved into a partnership of equals, where both personal and shared goals were nurtured. Their home became a hub of warmth and creativity, a place where ideas for new community projects were as likely to be discussed over dinner as plans for a garden in the spring. As the days grew warmer, both Susan and Tim attended the community center's annual gala, an event that celebrated the achievements of the past year and set the stage for future initiatives. It was the first time they had seen each other since the wedding that had marked the beginning of their new chapters. The encounter was a poignant reminder of the journey they had shared, filled with moments of nostalgia, but also a deep mutual respect for the paths they had chosen. Their conversation was a tapestry of past and present, acknowledging the pain that had once divided them but focusing on the growth that had emerged from it. They spoke of their projects, their hopes for the future, and the lessons they had learned about love, loss, and the redemptive power of giving back. It was a testament to their evolution, not just as individuals, but as part of a community they both cared deeply about. The gala ended with a sense of accomplishment and a renewed commitment to the work ahead. For Susan and Tim, it was also a moment of closure, a final confirmation that while their lives had diverged, they could look back on their shared history with a sense of peace. As spring gave way to summer, Susan and Tim continued to build upon the foundations they had laid. Susan's initiative for social impact startups became a cornerstone of the agency, attracting attention and support from across the industry. Her personal life, too, was a source of happiness, as she and her partner began to plan for a future that combined their dreams and ambitions. Tim's foundation launched a national campaign to promote financial literacy, partnering with schools and community organizations to reach a wider audience. The impact of this work was profound, touching the lives of individuals and communities across the country. His relationship with the retired teacher, now his partner in both life and philanthropy, was a testament to the idea that love can flourish in the soil of shared values and common goals. As summer reached its zenith, with days filled with light and nights aglow with stars, Susan and Tim each took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them here. They had navigated the seasons of their lives, from the depths of winter's chill to the warmth of summer's embrace, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. Their story, a narrative woven through with threads of challenge and triumph, love and loss, had taught them that life's beauty lies in its complexity. It had shown them that growth is an endless process, one that requires resilience, kindness, and an open heart. And so, as the cycle of the seasons continued, Susan and Tim moved forward, their lives a testament to the enduring power of transformation and the enduring strength of the human spirit. They had learned that while paths may diverge, the journey is richer for the experiences shared and the lessons learned along the way. As the wheel of the year spun once more into the golden hues of autumn, both Susan and Tim found themselves at yet another crossroads, not of challenge this time, but of reflection and deep, abiding gratitude. Their journeys had taken them through landscapes of both internal and external change, teaching them lessons about resilience, purpose, and the power of human connection. Now, as the leaves turned and the air grew crisp with the promise of winter, they each paused to look back on the paths they had traveled, recognizing how far they had come. Susan's agency had become a beacon of innovation and social responsibility, a place where creativity and compassion went hand in hand. Her initiative for supporting social impact startups had not only launched numerous businesses, but had also created a community of like-minded individuals dedicated to making a difference. This community had become a second family to Susan, one that supported her just as much as she supported them. Her personal life, too, was a source of profound happiness. She and her partner, united by shared values and dreams, had begun to lay the groundwork for a joint venture that combined their passions for environmental sustainability and social equity. Meanwhile, Tim's foundation had expanded its reach internationally, bringing financial literacy programs to communities around the globe. The impact of this work was immeasurable, changing lives and shaping futures in ways he had once only dared to hope. His partnership with the retired teacher, now his fiancée, was a testament to the belief that it's never too late to find love or to make a difference. Together, they had created a life that balanced personal fulfillment with the joy of helping others, proving that true happiness comes from giving as much as receiving. As they attended community events and worked on their respective projects, Susan and Tim's paths continued to intersect in unexpected ways. Their encounters, once a source of pain and nostalgia, had become occasions for shared joy and mutual encouragement. They had come to represent the possibility of transformation, not just for themselves, but for the community they both served. Their friendship, rekindled in the light of their shared commitments, was a reminder that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that from the ashes of a shared past, a new, richer connection can emerge. The annual gala of the community center, a celebration of the year's achievements and a fundraiser for future projects, found them both reflecting on the theme of gratitude. Standing before the assembled crowd, Susan and Tim shared their stories, not just of personal growth, but of the power of community, of coming together to create change. Their speeches, deeply personal yet universally resonant, moved many to tears, serving as a call to action for everyone present to look beyond their own challenges and to find ways to contribute to the greater good. As the evening drew to a close, Susan and Tim stood together, looking out at the faces of those whose lives they had touched and who had touched theirs in return. In that moment, they understood that their journeys, though deeply personal, were also part of a larger narrative, one that wove together the stories of all those who strive to make a difference in the world. The seasons would continue to change, bringing with them new challenges and new opportunities for growth. But Susan and Tim, fortified by the lessons of the past and inspired by the possibilities of the future, were ready to face whatever came their way. They had learned that life, with all its ups and downs, is a journey best traveled with an open heart, a resilient spirit, and a willingness to help others along the way. As autumn gave way once again to the quiet introspection of winter, they each embraced the season, not as an ending, but as a preparation for the growth to come. With gratitude, with hope, and with a deep sense of purpose, Susan and Tim stepped forward into the future, ready to continue their journeys wherever they might lead. Their story, a testament to the transformative power of change, remained a beacon of hope and inspiration, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to create a life of meaning, connection, and joy. As the year cycled into autumn once more, a season of introspection and harvest, Susan and Tim found themselves at a crossroads of reflection and anticipation. The world around them painted in shades of gold and crimson, a vivid backdrop to their internal landscapes of contemplation. Susan stood before a gathering at a major industry conference, ready to share her journey from starting a small digital marketing agency to becoming a leader within a larger firm that championed social impact projects. As she looked out at the eager faces in the crowd, her thoughts drifted to the early days of uncertainty and struggle, the resilience it took to rebuild her life and career, and the unyielding belief in the power of positive change. Her story was one of transformation, but also of giving back, of creating spaces where innovation and empathy could thrive together. Sharing her experiences, she hoped to light a spark in others, to encourage them to pursue their dreams with tenacity and heart. Meanwhile, Tim was leading a workshop focused on expanding financial literacy in underserved communities, part of a nationwide initiative his foundation had launched. The room was filled with community leaders, educators, and activists, all united by a common goal: to empower individuals with the knowledge and tools to shape their financial futures. As he spoke, Tim's mind occasionally wandered to the journey that brought him here, the personal trials that had deepened his commitment to making a difference. He remembered the support and love he had found along the way, the partnerships that had enriched his life and work, and the profound realization that true fulfillment comes from service and connection. As the season progressed, both Susan and Tim faced the future with a sense of purpose and hope. They had learned that while the path may not always be clear and the journey fraught with challenges, it is the lessons learned, the connections made, and the lives touched that define success. Susan, reflecting on her journey, realized that her experiences had not only shaped her as a leader, but had also taught her the importance of balance, of finding joy in the journey itself. She looked forward to exploring new challenges and opportunities, to continuing to mentor the next generation of entrepreneurs, and to building a life filled with love, creativity, and purpose. Tim, too, looked ahead with optimism. He saw a future where his foundation could reach even more communities, where his partnership with the retired teacher, now his life partner, would continue to grow and evolve. Together, they dreamed of a world where financial empowerment was accessible to all, and they were committed to making that dream a reality. As autumn gave way to the chill of winter, Susan and Tim each embraced the season of reflection, grateful for the journey that had brought them to this point, and excited for the new chapters yet to unfold. They understood that life is a tapestry of experiences, each thread woven with its own story, its own lessons. Looking ahead, they were ready to continue weaving that tapestry, to add new threads of adventure, growth, and connection, secure in the knowledge that every experience, every challenge, and every triumph was a step on the path to becoming who they were meant to be. As the year waned, bringing with it the gentle close of another cycle, both Susan and Tim stood at the precipice of yet another phase of their lives, reflective and anticipative of what the future might hold. The seasons had not only been a backdrop to their personal and professional growth, but also a metaphor for the ever-changing nature of life itself. Susan's initiative for social impact startups had blossomed into a thriving ecosystem that nurtured innovation and fostered a community of changemakers dedicated to making a difference in the world. On a personal front, her relationship had deepened into a partnership rooted in mutual admiration, shared goals, and love. Together, they had begun laying the groundwork for a project that would combine their skills and passions to address environmental sustainability, a testament to their belief in the power of collective action for the greater good. Tim's foundation had broadened its reach, launching initiatives that not only educated but empowered communities to take control of their financial destinies. The national campaign had sparked a movement, encouraging a dialogue about financial literacy that transcended age, background, and socioeconomic status. In his personal life, Tim's partnership with the retired teacher had evolved into a beautiful narrative of shared purpose and love, underscored by their commitment to enriching the lives of those around them. As autumn painted the world in hues of amber and gold, Susan and Tim, independently yet simultaneously, found themselves at a community event aimed at celebrating local heroes who had contributed significantly to societal welfare. It was here, amidst the laughter of children, the chatter of excited voices, and the warmth of the community spirit, that their paths crossed once again. This meeting, unlike their last, was not marred by the remnants of a shared past, but was instead a celebration of how far they had come, both as individuals and as part of a larger narrative. They shared stories of their projects, their successes, and the lessons learned along the way. In their exchange, there was a palpable sense of pride, not just in their own achievements, but in each other's. The event culminated in a ceremony that honored various community members, including Susan and Tim, for their dedication and service. Standing on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, they were struck by the impact of their journeys, not just on their own lives, but on the community they had both sought to serve in their ways. In this moment, Susan and Tim understood that their stories, woven through with trials and triumphs, were but threads in the larger tapestry of human experience. They had learned that endings were merely beginnings in disguise, that every goodbye held the promise of a new hello, and that growth was an infinite process, fostered by resilience, nurtured by love, and driven by the unyielding desire to make a difference. As the evening drew to a close and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Susan and Tim parted ways once more, their hearts full, their spirits uplifted. They had come full circle from shared paths to individual journeys, and now to mutual respect and admiration for the roads they had traveled and the ones that lay ahead. Their story, a testament to the enduring capacity for change, concluded not with an end, but with the understanding that life is a mosaic of moments, each colored by our choices, our challenges, and our triumphs. In the final analysis, Susan and Tim's narrative was a celebration of the human spirit, a reminder that we are all, in our way, works in progress, forever learning, forever growing. And so, as the curtain fell on this chapter of their lives, Susan and Tim stepped into the future, their hearts open to the endless possibilities that awaited, their lives a tribute to the beauty of beginning anew.